What is up, Internet? Welcome back to Beagle Eye Visions. I'm here at the Shangsheng Village. We're gonna do some more grinding here and maybe, definitely beat some more bosses. We are on episode number 11 of the CubbyWhole podcast. This episode is called Mental Schisms. It's a really good one. I know I've been saying the last 4 episodes are all my favorites, but they're all just so good. Nate and Brandon are absolute legends. Thank you guys for the work that you have done. Um, we just got a partnership with Dubby, so look for some more giveaways. We're going to be doing another giveaway this summer, so stay tuned for that. And I hope you've been enjoying this grinding series. We're definitely going to be doing some other podcasts. Once we get through with this one and get all the episodes covered, we're going to do, maybe What on Earth is Happening or Wake the Dead, do some crazy life stories, get some crazy life stories in there, and, do the good episodes of those. And, so stick around. A lot of good stuff to come. And we're going to get started here.
And that's one of the things about religion that we have to remember when we're talking about that makes it such a hot topic issue. It's because we're talking about law. Who gets to be God? Who gets to be God's deputies? Who is the Most High? Who is the divine authority? It's all about the claim to the Most High. The only way that somebody can be higher than us is if we give away our power. Because there's nobody, we're all equal. But we're not equal in our knowledge, so ultimately I think it does have to be a hierarchy, but it has to be a cooperative hierarchy like a bee colony. It's about what our value system is, what we care about.
Hello, Hive Mind. Today is July 23rd, 2020. I am your host, Nate Cap, joined by co-host Brandon Martin. Welcome to the 11th CubbyWhole podcast, where important topics are unveiled, discussed, and tested. Our website is CubbyWhole.com. That's CubbyWhole.com. On this show, we will be diving deeper into natural law, solipsism, social Darwinism, the law of the jungle, aspects of the left and right brain, non-aggression and self-defense principles, and along with mind control and the polarized schisms humanity finds themselves in. So, glad to have you back on, Brandon. It's going to be great doing the next few shows with you, and I'm pretty excited to get this information established for what's to come in the future content. So, got to lay the important foundations first. So, what do you think, Brandon?
Oh, man, I'm super excited to be talking about natural law. It's one of the main things that I feel not enough people are speaking about. I recently asked one of my friends if he has been talking about natural law to anybody, and I know that he understands it, and he was like, nope. And I was just absolutely disappointed that more people are not speaking about this. So I feel it's a great place for the CubbyWhole to start off on, like you said, to lay the foundational work, the prerequisites, to get people to the level of consciousness that they need to be at to create change in their selves and in their environment through their behaviors.
Absolutely. And that is exactly what we intend to help people do here on CubbyWhole. And it is a very arduous task to put out this type of information, but it's also very exciting. And I think that it's wonderful to have somebody here with me to help demonstrate these principles and these types of important topics, because it is the very thing that is, like you said, it's just not understood by the masses. And once it is, this earth is going to be, back to the way it was in a new look. And I believe that is very possible, to have a mostly moral, understood population that truly wants freedom and just going to take a while to get to that point, because we're definitely working through the wall of ignorance, and people are very, they definitely have a tight grip around that part of their mind that doesn't want, that resists the truth. So, and since we're on that, the resistance part, that is a part of lying to the self. So I want to start out by getting into dishonesty. And, what is a dishonest person? It is, someone who lies. And I think we all see this type of behavior all the time. And I'm sure we're all guilty of it, of being dishonest, at one point or another. And when it comes to controversial topics, it seems dishonest people are more likely to cause disputes and have trouble getting them settled logically. And, especially when facts are brought to light and thoroughly demonstrated with empirical data and reasoning, it's as if they just can't find an honest moment in themselves to actually look at what's brought to the table. It seems they, would just be totally fine being dishonest and making their opinion worth knowledge, or their opinion be more important than the actual facts that they're faced with. The point is, when this type of information you're hearing on this show is being unraveled in front of the people's eyes, the dishonest people, especially the people who claim to love science, so more of the, left brain types, they seem to be the most dishonest of their own attention to and what they don't know. It's really quite amazing. And an example is, I've posted information on social sites about moral law with logical data that fully demonstrates and proves its actual effects in nature, especially the actions of harm or violence, the wrongdoings, murder, rape, assault, theft, coercion, trespassing, and willfully lying. And I still get people and people who I see as seemingly smart, totally into science also. I see them respond with comments on social media like, oh, well, that's just religious jargon, or that's just a theory. It's not based in actual science, or it would be known and agreed upon by most scientists. And, speaking of scientists, I posted a meme of the term scientism with its definition, and certain people came out from under the bridge to make so many silly, dishonest claims. They completely couldn't even stay on topic. It was just a definition. That's it. Just they attacked me thinking I'm, somehow attacking science. And, basically they read the meme and chose to believe the definition as what they wanted it to mean rather than what it actually means. And I just want to be perfectly clear. Science and scientists, so like the actual methodology. So the methodology is completely different than the people themselves. They're two completely different things. Science and scientists are two completely different things. And scientism is all about the belief in modern mainstream scientists. So basically believing and having trust in scientific institutions to such an extent that the individual extending such trust believes that these institutions are the only source of verifiable truth. So nowhere in the meme does it say anything bad towards science, actual science. But people insist that the meme is just that, just completely dishonest on their part. And I'd say, coming from a place of hatred towards anybody who brings up any kind of controversial topics with any kind of truth. So what do you think, Brandon?
Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head there. with everything that you just said. It was very astute of you. I'm going to start off with approaching the topic of lying and dishonesty. We always hear this thing in religion called the 7 deadly sins, right? Which is lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, and pride. And I mean, if those things are not actually victimizing anybody, or if they're not causing any kind of harm onto anybody, then they're not out of alignment with natural law. So I don't even look at those as the actual deadly sins. They're not deadly sins. Yeah, maybe they can be self-inhibiting or self-destructive at a certain level. And I would say that, yes, it's not wise to be greedy. It's not wise to be in lust, but if you're not violating anybody else, then that's your own free will choice, and that's your own right to do so to a certain degree. Now, if that self-harm is starting to cause harm to the whole, then yes, obviously, then it's not your right anymore. You don't have that right if your greed is starting to cause harm onto other people, right? So if you're actually infringing upon somebody else's rights by stealing from them because you're so greedy, then yeah, but you can be greedy for other purposes also. So I think what you said earlier, which are the true 7 deadly sins, the true transgressions against natural law, which is murder, assault, rape, theft, trespass, coercion, and lying, those are the ones that we actually need to be talking about. Those are the things that people tend to talk about here and there, but they really don't break it down in a simplistic fashion that we have a scientific understanding of that through using our logical deductive reasoning. So when it comes to like lying, right? So this is what you started out with. We're talking about lying. Well, when you're lying to somebody, you're taking that ability for that individual to engage in their own discernment and decision-making process, which that does not belong to you, the individual who has initiated the lie. So, for example, let's say a person lies to you about something that you would normally not engage with if you knew the truth, right? So this happens with, let's say, relationships or like females, right? Let's say a female that's underage, that looks of age, that looks, like an adult, acts mostly like an adult to a certain degree, at least the cover, the persona of her seems to be adultish, right? She lies about her age to a male, and they end up engaging in sexual activity, right? But normally that male would not take that action if they knew the age of that individual. They were basing their decision-making process off of the signals, the body language and the way the person is talking and the look of the maturity of the individual. But when he asks, hey, how old are you? Are you of age? Let's say it's like a 20-year-old dude and, a 17-year-old girl. He might say, well, since you're 17, I'm not going to actually engage with you any further because you're just, you're underage and I could be held responsible for that. So, that person who's lying, the female, she's taking that individual's ability to discern and make a proper decision based off the truth of the situation and based off the truth of the reality of how old she actually is. And because of that, it's actually manipulating him into more likely doing something that she wants. So it's a form of manipulation. Lying is always manipulative, and whenever we're talking about that, we have to understand that it's a violation of natural law, and it's a violation of one's own free will to have the ability to be able to make proper decisions based on the information given. Because if we have corrupted information given to us, if we have altered or corrupted, like I said, or manipulated information that's given to us, that's provided to us, then we are going to have a poor decision-making process because we don't have all the data. And that's something that we really do need to have. We need to have more truthful information out there decentralized. We have to have an egalitarian approach to all of this information, especially when it comes to the occult and comes to the mystery traditions and definitely when it comes to natural law principles and the things that are actually destroying freedom. So,
Exactly.
When it gets into scientism, and we're talking about this, scientism is a religion. It's the belief that that's the only way, that's the only approach to be able to understand the nature of the self and the nature of the realm in which we operate, the self operates in, the universe, reality. And I don't quite agree with that. I think it's one way that we can understand, to come to understand things here, but I don't think it's the only way, because usually the way colloquially with science, we're looking at a left brain approach to things where we rely upon our senses, right? Our 5 sense data accumulation devices, our biological technology that is there to help us make sense of our world, right? But I mean, all you got to go to is some of these allegorical movies and understand that your senses can be illusionary, they can be deceived if you're in a certain environment, like within the Matrix, right? So we have to understand that there's also another way of coming to understand the truth, and that's intuitive. There's an intuitive science too. And I think of it as a science, but most people wouldn't, but it's more of a right brain, a scientific approach where, you can intuit the nature of something by direct gnosis or by direct channeling of what I would call the Akashic records, or like the universal field, the universal database. The other types of languages that we're capable of interpreting through our reasoning and through our own other biological technologies that we have also. So I think that science itself is great. We have to use the scientific methodology to get to the answers that we need, but we have to make sure that the scientific methodology encompasses all the tools, all the attributes and properties that we have at our disposal to come to understand the truth. We don't say, hey, this is the only way to get to the truth, when there's other things that we can use to also get to the truth. And we don't put those off to the side and say, no, we're never going to use those. Those are taboo. Those are all pseudoscience, and we don't obfuscate any of those tools either, because a lot of people obfuscate those tools. But when it comes to scientism, that's the perversion of the scientific method. It is the idea, it's the belief in authority. It's the belief that we can only get our answers from the people in the white coats, right? And that they're the ones who give us all the truth, and that's the only way we can get that. And if they don't say it, if they don't actually come out in the public or on the mainstream news or in their papers, then how can any of that be true? Which is an abdication of one's own personal responsibility to find the truth themselves. Now, what I mean by that is, it is each individual's responsibility to go out and do their own homework to actually find the truth. Does that mean you have to become a quantum physicist to understand some of the quantum, levels and stuff? Well, no, but you actually have to go through the deductive process of studying a vast variety of sources yourself to actually, come to that understanding. It doesn't mean
Exactly.
you have to become that thing. I don't have to become a doctor to take an interest in me doctoring myself and me becoming my own helper, my own healer of my own body and my mind, my temple, my emotions. I take that under my own wing. So we are trying to become independent when it comes to that. And in the day of information, which is what we have now, we have a mass amount of information all around us. It becomes more of a responsibility, and everybody wants to abdicate that personal responsibility onto something else, whether it be computer algorithms or AI systems, or a false authority figure that comes in and tells you, what the truth is when it's actually not that. And sometimes it can be. It doesn't mean you can't get truth from some of the scientists, but when you blindly believe that that's the only place that you can get truth, then it becomes a religion. You're looking at a religious mindset with people where they're going to the scientific priest class, to get their answers solely, rather than taking that up for themselves and their own responsibility to discern falsehood from the illusions from the truth, falsehood from the truth.
Very well said. And yes, scientism is a religion. And speaking of religion, I know we already explained solipsism a little bit before, but I want to revisit and break it down even more because it really is ultimately the destructive religion that needs to be understood deeply. Solipsism is purely a delusional mental illness. And just as a reminder, it is the belief that one's own mind is controlling and creating everything in the whole universe and no one else exists. Their mind is the center of the universe and everything revolves around them. Everything is just their own imagination going wild. And I accept and understand that we are all, connected and we are all part of the one, the whole of all, that is. And believing or knowing we are all one has nothing to do with the belief that there isn't other individuals having their own experiences. We all exist here in the physical domain together, and, that's self-evident. The whole, point about solipsistic belief is that the entire physical domain is purely an illusion, and everything that takes place in it doesn't matter or doesn't have any type of, significance. The idea is that it all should be observed and do nothing to change anything. And that is a very dangerous worldview. It's about believing nothing can be known and objective truth is non-existing because one's own mind is all that there is and everything is just made up, including morality. I've met many people like this, and they believe that what they experience can only be experienced by them. Therefore, they believe everything else is just their imagination creating the seeming experiences of others. So if I would have flicked them in the ear, I'd be left out of that experience, right? So I've had people look at me right in the face and tell me that they believe I'm a projection or a figment of their imagination for the sake of a fun or weird random experience, like they're just a video game and they're, it's all, no one else is real, just them. But by that logic, why would a solipsist ever read a book? Why would a solipsist ever care who rules over them? Or why would they care who their parents are? Or why would they allow such painful experiences, Solipsism is, like I said, a religion. It's a new age type of religion. It's, it's not logically sound, and it basically is about giving up on the journey to know the true self. It's about giving up on personal responsibility, and it's about believing that, since no one can know anything, I'm never going to work to try and know why things are the way they are and live comfortable in my ignorance and laziness.
Right.
And that is
can I say something to that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Since they claim that they can know nothing, then how can they know that they are a solipsist? Or how can they know that they are the only ones experiencing that reality?
Right.
Their premise of I can know nothing, there is more context to that also. It's I can know nothing. If I can know something, I cannot share what I know with anybody else. But let's just start with the first one, which is I can know nothing, right? But how do you know that you know nothing is simply what I'm talking about. How do you know that you're a solipsist? How do you know that you're having an experience? It's fundamentally contradictory and self-defeating when you look at the root of not only the assumption, but also the reality of the way that one is living through their ideologies. Are they living in concordance with their ideological idea of solipsism? Well, they can't be. It's an impossibility. It is physically an impossibility. It is mentally, emotionally, spiritually, soulfully. It is an complete impossibility to be a solipsist based on what we do know, and how we experience things. By the word itself, experience. The word itself relays some form of knowledge of something that is taking place. So there is no way that you could be a solipsist that knows nothing. So it boggles my mind, because like what you said, there's so many people that actually believe this. And when I first learned about this, what I would call a psychopathology, when I first learned about this, I was like, no, there can't be that many people that believe in this. I was just like, I was naive about it. I was like, no way. There's no way that there's so many people believing in this. When I first heard, this disease, of this disease. And I started to talk to people about it, and I was astounded at how many people actually believe in this nonsense.
Yeah, not only that, but they also, whenever you bring up this type of information to them, they'll be like, well, but I really don't know. Who really knows? They'll just keep on going in circles and saying like, but no one really knows. No one really knows. Like even what you're saying right now could just be like a figment of my imagination. I'm just like, okay, well, then what's the point of logic? What's the point of having any logical conversation here? It's very, very fascinating and sad in a major way that people actually believe that and actually think that way. But it goes right back to the beginning of the show. Dishonesty. It's about being dishonest with yourself, and that's really the conclusion.
I completely agree. I mean, it literally is one of the biggest false religions, and it is so widespread. It is it's crazy how far this really goes, And I look at it as a defining hallmark of spiritual infancy. Departing from this disease ideology is a surefire sign of the beginnings of like spiritual maturity. Like when you start to actually develop your own self-awareness to the degree that you're harmonizing with the truth, that's a symptom of you actually coming out of this disease and you healing this disease in your mind. So those who are, truly awake and fully understand that there is such a thing as objective reality and that it does exist and that truth can be known and it can be shared with others, those are people who are actually healing themselves from this psychopathology.
Right. We've talked about the religion of scientism, we've talked about the religion of solipsism, and now I'd like to get into the religion of Darwinism. Many people believe when they hear natural law, they think law of the jungle, or they think natural order, which is basically the most ruthless gets to rule, or, it's about survival of the most socially ruthless. What is it about this belief that stagnates one's mind, or what is it about the belief that does any kind of good for someone or a society?
Well, I don't think there's anything that is good about this belief system that helps to benefit or truly ascend our species in any way. Darwin himself came out later in his works and said, to not take his works, or pretty much just to take his works with a grain of salt, that he didn't even fully believe that everything he said was empirical, and there would have to be a very long-term study to prove his theory, because it's Darwin's theory. It's not an actual scientifically sound and proven reality. And that's why it's called Darwinism, because it has become a form of a religion. And it gets into the whole idea about certain bloodlines being genetically superior to others and things along this nature, that our DNA, our genes, are the governing principle of all of our characteristics, has been completely disproven by things like epigenetics, which shows that consciousness is the writer of the genes. Yeah, genes do play a big factor into how we physically develop, but they're simply just the blueprints for our makeup, our forms, and to change the gene, we have to change the signal, the source code, or the source of the code, I should say. The source that is writing the code is more accurately said, to actually change the result of the projection of the code into reality. So the idea that, of the survival of the fittest, right? It puts us into the R complex of the brain, which puts us into survival mode, fight and flight. It makes us more ruthless, more violent, less compassionate, less empathetic. And this is what we have today. We literally have Darwin's theories being applied to society. So, where Darwin's ideas were dealing with the animal kingdom, he really didn't apply it to humanity too much, or to society specifically. People that came after him decided to apply his theories and kind of take those ideas and apply them to the way human dynamics are experienced and play out, in our reality and in our culture and in our condition. So the evolution of this idea became largely accepted as a belief system, and it's definitely just a belief system during like the second industrial revolution. And we see this everywhere today. We see it in crony capitalism. We see it in patriarchy. We see it in any type of system that enshrines people that are the most ruthless as the highest pinnacle of our evolution. So that's pretty much, you nailed it, also there by saying that it's about the survival of the most ruthless, because that's what it equates to. It equates to people that are the most ruthless to others, the people who can selfishly get one up on other people by destroying their freedoms, by destroying their livelihood, by encroaching upon their liberties, are the people who are fit to rule over humanity, which is the most immoral and most disgusting thing that we could ever think of. I mean, think about that compared to like a baby. A person could totally just dominate and destroy a baby and just, do whatever they want. Those are the people who are allowed to do that. They rule the baby because they're the most fit, or they're the most psychopathic is really when it comes to, So technically, based off of the ideas of social Darwinism, the idea of pedophiles is just fine. It's completely acceptable in the dynamic of social Darwinism, because those are the most ruthless, and they're the ones who are going to survive, supposedly, right? But it is kind of self-defeating, because the most ruthless do not always survive. We know this. There's all kinds of different dynamics. My AR-15 will definitely prove that very differently, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So, you don't have to be the most ruthless to actually survive, but that's what that is equated to. And what that leads into is things like eugenics, and eugenics is definitely another deplorable, ideology that has been running amok in our culture for a long time, and it's caused so much great harm, so much immense harm across the board. And so you get social Darwinism, which leads into eugenics, which leads into things like it bolsters the idea of royalty, is what I'm trying to get at with the bloodline thing. Because if you're born of a certain bloodline, then you're fit to rule over humanity. So it's the idea of the concept of the divine right to rule over people, right? That they have been gifted with a certain bloodline that gives them the quote unquote right to rule over humanity. And these are some of the ideologies that these sick people want to propagate out into the world. They want you to accept this as normal, that it's okay to think that other people, because of their blood, are superior to you, and that they have a right to infringe upon you within society, they have the right to steal from you because they own you, is what they're claiming. They're claiming that they own you, that you're not a sovereign being, and they get to do whatever they want with you because they are the most ruthless and they are the most fit to rule over you. So, I mean, it's I can't even put it into words how disgusting it actually is to me when I think of people thinking like this, right?
Well, yeah, not only that, but the people who actually believe that these people have that right. You know, the support of it is just insane to me. And, you know, something I wanted to ask you is, you know, how does social Darwinism play into natural law?
Well, I think it's antithetical to natural law. I don't think it has any place within that. So it's in direct opposition to natural law because it enshrines the ideas of moral relativity. Social Darwinism bolsters to the idea that man can just arbitrarily make up what right and wrong are, and that's, you know, the fundamental foundational idea underneath eugenics and social Darwinism, you know. So to me, it is a transgression against other people's liberties when it comes to natural law.
Yeah,
All right, we're going to take a break there. Sorry about all the background noise. I'm sure you heard a lot of some background noise there. Apologize. I do have to say we went and saw the Bob Marley movie yesterday. That's what we did. I didn't post any video game videos. The movie was 10 out of 10. It was great. If you go to your local AMC theater, they'll give you a little like record sleeve of a poster. It's really awesome. It's really high quality. Yeah, and I love what they had to say about everything about natural law, and you know, I've ran into people at cookouts and other places where people say that the truth doesn't exist. And, you know, when they say that, it's all you have to do is ask them, well, is that true? And then they kind of realize that it's a logical fallacy. And they really realize the stupidity of what they just said. And, you know, this is what people believe. This is what people really believe it with every fiber of their being. You know, and like Brandon said, nobody's out here talking about it. Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about these subjects, about natural law, about slavery, about what is right and what is a wrong. I think these are very important topics. You know, the Super Bowl weekend just passed. How many people were talking about the Super Bowl? They had the great arm. You know, I have a great arm. We made it. We really won. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl this year. You know, it's like, oh, you made the team. Like what Mark Passio says. Oh, I didn't realize you made the team. Oh, you're making money. You're making commissions. You know, every time you throw a football, you get millions of dollars, huh? That's awesome. You know, that's not reality. What else was I going to say? I brain farted. But yeah, they just have some awesome stuff. And I also want to give a shout out to Will Keller, who's another, just like the people of CubbyWhole, the host of CubbyWhole. Will Keller is another content creator on the One Great Work Network. And they just, Will Keller and Crip Rick just posted a Valentine's Day episode on the Freedom Under Natural Law YouTube channel. I watched it last night. It was very good. The topics they were hitting on about the Valentine's Day and the materialism of Valentine's Day, they said it was a billion-dollar industry. They hit on some really good topics. I'll leave a link to that video in the description of this one. So shout out to Will Keller and the Freedom Under Natural Law YouTube channel. They're doing great work, so go check that out too. So thank you if you made it this far. We're gonna keep posting these out, but in March there is going to be a week where I won't be able to post any video game videos, which kind of sucks, but we're gonna try to figure it out. Maybe I'll just take my PS4 and laptop and we'll do it that way. But anyways, thanks again if you made it this far. Stay tuned. We're going to keep pumping them out. And more music. There's a metal night this Friday at the MEAC in Elkhart. So there's going to be some metal music for the metalheads. And I'm still going to be posting some acoustic music from the last show of this past Friday. And there's a lot of shows, a lot of DIY music coming out. So stay tuned. Thank you for choosing Beagle Eye Visions.